Good evening and welcome book club viewers to the next installment of Erin's Book Club. So the last book that I did was a fiction. So I decided to do a non-fiction book, and the non-fiction book that I chose was Tell Me Where It Hurts by Dr. Nick Trout. And let me go on record first, before I even get into this, saying that not every book that has something to do with animals and something to do with veterinary medicine should be compared to James Herriot. James Herriot was a totally different viewpoint and a totally different idea than, say, one of these books or any book that has something to do with animals and medicine. I'm getting very frustrated with people comparing these kind of books to James Herriot. He was his own entity, he was his own thing, okay? That being said, this book was a very good book. It was basically laid out as a vet going through his day, seeing his patients, and we basically followed along through the book. Yes, very similar to James Herriot. James Herriot was written a long time ago, and I think that in order for us to appreciate the book is to let it stand on its own. You take something away from a book when you compare it to something else that's been written by that individual in that genre, by something that's that famous. I think that this book would be very good at standing on its own without any kind of comparing to James Herriot. First of all, I want to say that the book was thought out well. It starts, like each chapter is written out in times instead of, say, chapter 1. So the first chapter was actually called 2:47 a.m. And you start off with an emergency call, and this fellow has to go in and do surgery on a dog. Now, I'm going to say that I'm a little bit biased in this genre because myself being a veterinary technician, this really sprung and spoke to me. The book was written out well. We had case studies for each chapter, which was really nice. We had interaction with the human beings of the animals, which was really nice. He was able to touch on the fact that most of the owners can be a little eccentric at times, and if you're working in a specialized hospital for a veterinary surgeon, you've kind of filtered out the patients that wouldn't be willing to spend money on their animals, and therefore the ones that are left are, totally involved in what their animal health care should be. So I liked that aspect of it. Let me just say one point of criticism that I didn't enjoy, and you all know me by now that I like the way a book is laid out. That's something that's important to me. And the book being laid out as in time frames is really good, and each patient for each time frame is really good. The problem is, halfway through what they're telling us about the time frame, he goes off into a tangent about another patient that he had dealt with beforehand, even years ago, that had the same issue and how he dealt with that, and then he goes back to the patient at hand. So again, you're doing a lot of kind of flip-flopping, and I don't like that. I like to be able to read the entire chapter, then maybe go to your next example. But again, that's me. That isn't necessarily a fault of the author itself. Really dragged you into every aspect of this guy's life, in the daily life of a veterinarian, from surgeries into just your daily appointments, what he's thinking. We even got to understand how he wanted to become a vet, and he had a certain sense of humor. He didn't take himself too seriously, which was so refreshing. A lot of times you do see vets that, especially your specialists, who are very serious about life and very precise about the way life should be, and he just kind of goes with the flow, which is very nice. He can be a little bit self-degrading, which is weird for a vet to come out and be that way. Really enjoyed the book. I will probably keep this book, read it a few times. I hope he writes another one. Very, very enjoyable. But I think it's enjoyable on its own accord. It doesn't necessarily need to be compared to something else to be enjoyable. A lot of really good reviews on it. It's something that I think that if you're an animal lover and you're struggling with different things, even if you're an animal lover that has pets that are going through difficulties or have had pets that have gone through difficulties, this is the book that you definitely want to read. It ends very well. It ties up with the beginning very well. Very impressed with this book. Was able to really do a nice, good read. So thank you very much for listening to me and being patient with my critiques. So Tell Me Where It Hurts, A Day of Humor, Healing, and Hope in My Life as an Animal Surgeon by Dr. Nick Trout. One that I would definitely read. Definite thumbs up. Thanks, guys.